it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm designing a layout for Papermaze. And this month I've been working with the Faboolous collection from Simple Stories. And if you follow me on Instagram or YouTube, you'll know how much I love Halloween. It's my favourite time of the year, and it's my favourite theme to Scrapbook as well. I just love a good Halloween collection, especially one like this where you've got traditional kind of oranges and blacks. Those are my favourite Halloween collections, so this one is no exception. So I've got a couple of photos from last Halloween. Every year I do an at-home photo shoot with my little boy. We do one for Halloween and one for Christmas. So these are some photos from last year's Halloween shoot. And we have all our pumpkins around my little boy and some decorations hanging in the background. There's lots of spiders and skeletons. We had all sorts last year. But I've selected 3 of the pattern papers that I thought worked really well with these photos. So I've got this lovely orange one with all the pumpkins on. I've got a black paper I'm going to pull out in a second. I think it's got orange polka dots all over it. And then in the middle there, I've got that kind of greyish coloured paper. And that really reminds me of the kind of colour you get for headstones and tombstones in Halloween collections. It's a really lovely colour to see in a Halloween collection. But I felt like it worked with the backdrop of my photos quite nicely. So I've got those 3 papers. I've torn strips out of them, or I cut strips and then tore them down. I've kept them with a straight edge on one side and then torn them kind of into a point on the other. I just wanted to sort of do something a bit different. I didn't want a straight edge on both sides. So by doing that, I can now distress all the edges where I've torn them and introduce a little bit of texture to the page, because I do like to have a lot of texture on my layouts, especially for something like Halloween. I just find lots of texture and rips and distressed edges and things work really nicely for Halloween. So that's kind of how the layout is going to look, with those strips on the background, my 2 photos, and then I'm going to embellish using the bits and pieces and the cardstock stickers. And I don't want to go too mad with the embellishing. I always find this sort of the most fun part, but also the hardest, especially with Simple Stories collections, because I love their bits and pieces packs. There's so much in them and everything in it is just really lovely, and I always want to use it all. But I'm very conscious of overcrowding the page and making it too busy. And then there's so many things on the page that you don't notice them. So I kind of ask myself, is it adding anything? If not, do I really need it on the page? And if the answer is no, it generally doesn't go on the page, and it means I can really stretch a collection and make lots of layouts with it. But yeah, I really don't see the point in overloading the page so much that your eye just misses everything that's on it and all those lovely details. So I'm very careful when it comes to embellishing that I don't add too much, but I do want to add enough that it doesn't look too bare. So it's sort of a fine line in between, and it's about getting the balance right with me. Quite often it's a bit of a struggle and I don't quite manage it, and I don't know where to stop, and I do add too much. Sometimes I stop the other side and don't add enough, but it's about sort of keep adding and keep going until I'm happy with it. And you'll see here in a minute, I add some bits and move them around, sort of changing my mind and trying to see what fits and what I like where. And that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? Moving it around and designing what you like and trying things out and having a play with it all. So I'm going to get my photos in place because I know sort of roughly where I want those to sit. I've overlapped them slightly, and then I'm going to raise them up on foam to bring in some dimension. I've also raised that kind of grey diamond patterned paper up on foam as well, just to bring in lots of dimension. I love lots of dimension on my pages, so I get through quite a lot of craft foam. But I do prefer the look it gives. It's like a nice shadow effect. You can almost see at the edge of that grey strip of paper now, where it comes down to a point, you can see the shadow underneath it. So lots of dimension really makes me happy. So I've got my photos in place now. I've selected a few embellishments that I'm going to use. My desk's an absolute mess at the moment. I don't often create in this kind of mess. I normally clean as I go, but I got so into this layout and had all the things around me and hadn't quite decided what I was and wasn't going to use. So my desk is looking a little bit messy. For my title, I've pulled out one of the cardstock stickers. Now, if you buy the collection pack, I think you get the 12 by 12 papers and you also get the sticker sheet included in that. or it's available to buy separately on its own, but they're identical. So I got mine with my collection pack, but I've used the trick or treat words from that. I'm using those as my title. I have added them to some white cardstock just to make them a bit more robust, and so that I can raise them up on foam pads and move them around a bit if I want to. So just stick it down to white cardstock, and then with my scissors I've just sort of trimmed around the edges, so you can't see it's on cardstock, but it just means I've been able to raise it up on foam a little bit easier without it sagging in between. And then once that's in place over on the right, I'm going to sort of commit and start getting things stuck down. And I'm using little foam pads behind most things, again just to bring in that dimension, and it means I can tuck things in and under each other, just sort of build some clusters. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a play here with various items from the bits and pieces pack. I've also got the page pieces and the floral bits and pieces as well. I think I've also got the journal bits and pieces as well for this collection. I've got lots of it. So I'm going to have a sort of a play with all of it, pull quite a few bits out and see what I want to use. And it's coming together quite nicely now. These are the floral bits and pieces, so as well as getting lots of florals in here, there's also lots of pumpkins. I've just used one there behind my title, and also lots of little, I'm not sure if they're crows or ravens, I'm going to say ravens, but yeah, lots of those as well, which are perfect for Halloween collections. So I've just added a little bird there, a couple of pumpkins. This little Spidey here, he's going to be hanging down. So I've marked up with a pen where I want him to sit, and then I'm going to get some embroidery thread and just pierce a hole at the top and the bottom of that line, and then just sort of stitch or thread some black thread through that so that he's got something to dangle from, a little bit like a web. So there we go, he's in place now, and I love that the thread brings another texture to the page, something a little bit different. It's better than just drawing a black line on there. And then I've added one of the little florals underneath my photo, and then I felt like the page was a little bit sort of heavy on the top and the left of the page, and I felt like I needed something to help balance it out. So I'm going to mimic those paper strips down in the bottom right hand corner, but scale them right down so that they're a lot smaller. So I've used the same papers in the same sort of fashion, like a straight edge on one side on the outer edge of the page, and then having them torn into a point. And I'm going to get those stuck down at the bottom there, and I'll add a couple of embellishments as well, just so that it doesn't look like 3 random bits of cardstock or patterned paper. So I've got a little sticker here from the cardstock stickers, and then I'm going to add a little bat down there as well, just to tie it in with the top half of the page where I've got bats up there as well. And I'm almost done, but I still wasn't happy with it. There was still something else I needed to do, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted, whether it was a border or a frame. I just felt like I needed a bit of colour on those 2 edges that were just looking very white and bare. So what I've done is I've torn into the edges, folded the cardstock back on itself, and then I'm going to back that area with some of the pattern paper. So I'm using the black one with the orange polka dots. I've already used that for one of the strips of torn paper across the centre, so I thought that would tie in quite nicely using that as well. I didn't cut this one long enough, so I've had to just sort of make it a little bit longer myself there, sort of knit 2 bits together. But yeah, I really love how that looks now, and I just feel like that made such a difference from those white edges that look just a bit bare and unfinished. It's now got a little bit of darkness, a little bit of detail, and I'm going to add some staples to that as well. I love using staples on a layout. Again, it's another material, another texture on the page, but again, it's just a bit boyish for me, I think, staples. I don't know why, I just always think they look fab on a boy layout, and also on a Halloween layout. They almost remind me of like stitches you get on Halloween costumes and things and face paint. So yeah, I thought they looked a bit like stitches, so I've added those on as well. And that is me done. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this layout and the process. I will leave a link in the description box below to the Papermaze website and also the blog, where you can head over and find links to all the products I've used. But thanks very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this layout, and I'll see you next time.